Good morning, everyone on the call. Okay, I want to be sure that everyone can actually hear me. Good morning. We'll be starting the webinar now, so as not to keep our guest speaker waiting for long. And please know that this webinar is going to be recorded, and we appreciate you by muting yourself and then listen as attentively to be able to gain much about what our guest speaker is actually going to take us through this morning. So I will start by introducing myself and then welcoming us again. So my name is Olanike Ogunshaki. I'm a research associate of Opolo Global Innovation Limited. And I would like to appreciate our guest speaker for joining this call on time. Thank you, Dr. Amira Kado. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning. It's nice to have you on the call earlier enough. Thank you for keeping to time. Then I welcome every one of us on the call as well to the Opolo Research to Enterprise webinar. And we'll be taking, our facilitator will be taking us through it will be taking us through today's webinar. And I just, like I said, we seek your support on this. And as she takes us through how Nigeria can actually make the most of ESG to ensure sustainable and inclusive prosperity. So thank you. I would like to introduce, to go into the profile reading of our guest speaker shortly. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to introduce Dr. Amira Kado. She's an esteemed associate professor at the National School of Science and Advanced Technology, Carthage University. Dr. Kado's extensive expertise and impactful contribution are truly noteworthy. Currently, holding the distinguished position of chair for a professional master's program in innovation, engineering, and technology transfer. Dr. Kado influence extends far beyond the academic realm. She served as the principal researcher for the Include DOFET projects, a dynamic initiative focused on fostering inclusive and sustainable ecosystem with essential support from the World Intellectual Property Organization, United Nations. Dr. Kado's academic journey is a testament to her dedication, and with a PhD in finance, she has further enhanced her credentials with a certification in fintech and inclusion from Luxembourg University. Other chair for inclusive finance, a passion for knowledge dissemination has led to spearheaded the Tunisian Knowledge chapter of the International Society for Knowledge Organization, ISCO Maghreb, solidifying a commitment to advancing the frontiers of learning. Our international impact is equally inspiring as a scientific coordinator of Allied Innovation College in Cambridge, UK. She tirelessly champions innovation in Africa and the MENA region. Moreover, she takes pride in her roles as the president of the MENA Climate and FinTech Network, an initiative that brings together experts to address crucial environmental and financial challenges. Dr. Kado's influence extends beyond academic into the realm of advocacy and community. She proudly served as the vice president of the Atlas Foundation in Tunisia, contributing to philanthropic efforts that uplifts underserved communities. She also holds a vital position on the executive board of the African Women in FinTech and Payments Francophone section, empowering women in the financial and technological sector. Dr. Kado's dedication is reflected in her body of work. Our research spans diverse domains such as behavioral finance, climate finance, ESG principles, digital transformation, and green transition. Inclusive practices, gender equality, and technology transfer are pivotal themes in our contribution, reinforcing our commitment to holistic development. Notably, Dr. Kadu also serves as the editor for books that delves into critical topics like inclusion, digital transformation, and multidisciplinary approaches to scientific research for sustainable development. We are truly privileged to have Dr. Amira Kadu among us this morning as a visionary academic, a passionate advocate, and a catalyst for positive change. Her influence reverberates through academia, industry, and society, leaving an indelible mark on the journey towards a more inclusive, sustainable, and innovative future. Kindly give your virtual hands to welcome our dear guest speaker for today. Thank you. Hello. Okay. So I would like every one of us to give our virtual hands to welcome our guest speaker for today. And like I said, Okolo Global Innovation is ensuring a sustainability in all we do. And that's why today we shall learn on how Nigeria, individual of us, and many other countries can actually leverage on environmental, social, and governance principles to drive sustainable and inclusion prosperity. And we know that ESG encompasses a range of factors to measure a company's or a country performance in areas related to the environment, social responsibility, and corporate governance. Our guest speaker, Dr. Amira Kadu, will introduce us and teach us on some strategies that we individuals and Nigeria as a whole can actually adopt to make most of ESG for our development. So I would like to welcome our guest speaker on board to please take up the presentation. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, my colleague Olanika. Thank you so much for the presentation. And if I will represent myself again, I'm simply principal researcher for inclusive and sustainable ecosystem. And I do believe that multidisciplinary research is nowadays very important to tackle the different challenges that we are facing when we speak about digital and green transition. So my colleague Olenika, you will share the screen or I will share the screen?
Okay, please go ahead and share the screen, ma'am.
Okay, so you will share the screen, right?
Okay, you can share it at your hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for organizing this webinar again. So I will try to, I can't share the screen. I'm not the host. Yeah.
Yeah, you can share your screen now, Mo. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you so much for this invitation, and thank you again for Apollo for organizing such very interesting sessions to spread knowledge in our continent and to discuss really very relevant topics related to the development of our continent and our countries. I believe as researchers that this kind of webinar and workshop can provide peer-to-peer learning and knowledge transfer. And today, I will try to discuss with you the ESG approach and to provide some modest, if you want, recommendations related to how to Nigeria regarding its economy specificity can make the most of ESG to ensure sustainable and inclusive prosperity. And maybe, by the way, as a researcher, as a woman with a background of researcher, I would like, before moving to the specific really topic and aim of this workshop, is that I would like to share with you or to frame with you the importance of ESG and why we need to consider ESG and sustainability. So the first maybe question that I would like to discuss with you, and since I'm really happy that the group is very limited, this will enable very participatory discussion, and a dynamic discussion. So dear colleagues, before presenting my thoughts and musing, I would like to discuss with you, do you think that sustainability is really a luxury or a necessity nowadays? My colleague, Mr. Simon, what do you think? Yeah.
Well, sustainability is not a luxury by any stretch of the imagination. It's a necessity, because anything that is not sustainable, like they say, cannot be sustained. So it's a necessity, more than a necessity, in fact. Thank you.
Yeah, and dear colleagues, when do you think that we start to realize that this is really a necessity? When is it? From maybe 1 decade, 2 decades? What do you think? Is it a new topic or no? Olenika, what do you think? Is it a new topic?
Okay, we should start, it should be now. We should take it now.
Yeah, thank you so much for this answer, because it's not now. It's really a concept that emerged from what we can call the long economic cycles. I would like to share with you really a very important study that we have revised after the subprime crisis troubles. That this is what I am presenting in the slide, the waves of innovation, or the Kondratiev cycles. Who is it, Kondratiev? Kondratiev is a long-term economic, Kondratiev wave is a long-term economic cycle in commodity prices and other prices that believe to result from technological innovation, and before maybe technical and operational and mechanical innovation that have framed or shaped the progress of our economy through long cycles. These cycles were about maybe 15 to 60 years, divided into different seasons, winter, autumn, spring, and summer. And you can see that from the 2020s, we are moving to the sixth wave of Kondratiev, where we can see sustainability, radical resource productivity, whole system design and redesign again, based on green and digital transitions. So we are now moving to a new era where there is a need to rethink our business models and our way of living. So sustainability really was a result from a long progress of mechanical, operational, technical, and now innovation toward this new sixth wave of Kondratiev. So we have a new need and we have a new reality. For this really sustainability and sustainable development framework and the sustainable development goals, if we can define them according to the definition proposed in 1987 by the Brundtland World Commission, Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations. And thus we are now discussing the agenda of 2030. So sustainable development revolves around these three pillars that you can see. For example, economic pillar, develop growth and economic efficiency through sustainable production and consumptions mode, while respecting business ethics. We will hear a lot about business ethics. This is really a new evolving and a new and also in progress topic that we need to define in depth. So, and the second pillar, the environmental pillar, preserving, improving, and enhancing the environment and natural resources over the long term by maintaining major ecological balances, reducing risk, and preventing environmental impact. The final pillar, which is social and societal pillar, meeting human needs, human rights, gender equity, meeting an objective of social equity by promoting the participation of all social groups on issues, housing, consumptions, education, employment, culture, and etc. So thus we are framing or we are developing more and more green business models. And you can see that we need a holistic global vision which expands performance to broader contributors within the organization's ecosystem. So now the financial performance of one company is no longer defined, if you want, based on its own economic and financial performance, but we need to link its impact related to the environment, the supply chain, the different stakeholders, partners. So the strategy and behavior of its consumer, of its supplier, the different stakeholders, and the impact on its access to funding and to, for example, the financial sector, but also the impact of this green business model on the company image and also the value of its share. So we have a new global vision that is broader than really the specific concentration on the financial performance of the company. We can see that the term innovation is very important in green business models because we are facing more and more challenges related to the scarcity of resources, but also how to satisfy consumer needs and also the new behavior of consumers when we speak about responsible consumption. So what is it really, the ESG? The acronym, so Environmental Social Governance, was coined in 2005 and informally before through the corporate social responsibility of companies. And we have environmental folks' roots in the environmental movement between 60s and 70s, early concerns about pollution and resource scarcity, and the growing concern about climate change. So the investors try to consider environmental risks and opportunity. Also, we have the social dimension with the growing concern related to labor rights and the increased focus on social issues about labor practices, human rights, diversity, community impact. So we try to understand more and more what should be the behavior of the companies regarding the labor rights and how to motivate them, how to create a company culture or an organizational culture that will contribute to the company financial performance. The third point, which is governance, and what will be really the role and the impact of the governance model and the shareholder, if you want, behavior in orienting the investment and choices of the company toward sustainable or sustainability, or toward respecting the three pillars. So the concept, so the evolution of the ESG approach, we had a growing interest and awareness, so significant increase in interest and awareness of ESG in recent years. I will share with you some private solutions that try to support the organization understanding, but also countries understanding. So, for example, internet search for ESG have grown 5 times since 2019, surpassing search for corporate social responsibility. Shift from corporate social responsibility, thus, to ESG. So ESG reflects a shift from traditional corporate social responsibility practices and focusing to assess the performance of company related to their corporate social responsibility and ESG principles. The third point, which is allocating resource to understand ESG, or to create metrics, or to boost or to integrate the adoption of ESG indicators. And I will share with you some examples of metrics that we can use. So organizations across the different industries and size are all allocating more and more resource to enhance ESG. We have said why, because the ESG performance and image of the company will impact its access to funding and to the financial sector, but also the price of its share. And in the future, in some developed countries and developing countries, we start to have responsible consumer behavior, where they try to see if this product comes from really a company with best-in-class ESG rank. Thus, the ESG image will impact also the market share of the company. So for this, as the ESG performance will impact the whole work of the organization, we start to need reporting in ESG. So over 90% of Standard & Poor's 500 companies start to publish their ESG reports. About, for example, 70% of Russell 1000 company also publish some form of ESG reports. It's not really related to only developed countries. Developing countries start to allocate resources and start to add some reports in their sustainable development reports, related to ESG. Some medium and small enterprise, especially innovative startups, start to report or to publish ESG reports. So we have some mandatory reporting. So many jurisdictions consider or mandate ESG reporting. For example, in the United States, in UK, in most of the European countries, we have in France ESG index related to CAC 40 index. And thus, we start to have some regulations, strong regulation that aim to ensure transparent and disclosure of ESG information. Thus, future implication of ESG approach and ESG rank will shape the behavior of consumer, and also will shape totally the development of the companies. So, what is really ESG metric, or what are really ESG metrics look like? So ESG metrics encompass a diverse range of performance indicator, most of them non-financial, serving to evaluate companies based on their commitment to sustainable and responsible practices. So these metrics offer insight into aspects such as environment, social governance. Through monitoring and analyzing these metrics, business can gauge their advancements in enhancing business sustainability and ethical conduct. Thus, in turn, contributes to the creation of long-term value and social welfare. I would like really to discuss with you, because all of us can have a deep understanding of the E element, also the governance element. But really, the most critical point that we need to understand in depth, the social factor. Here we have some examples, for example, of social indicator, for example, health and safety of labor, force, working conditions, employee benefits, and motivation, diversity and inclusion. So if we consider gender equality, if we consider the right of vulnerable groups, human rights, and impact of local communities. The most of the standard understanding of this point is that it is only related to human, and in terms of benefit related to labor, employee at the first place. But in some studies, we start to integrate or to add to this element some maybe national problems that may affect the employees when they will join their work, for example, road safety. So road accident. I can share with you that in Africa, we are the most impacted continent with a very high level of road accident each day. I think about 700 disease each day, which is a very, very, very high rate regarding the other continent. So what I would like to say that when we try to develop ESG metrics in each country, we need to consider the local context of this country, and also we need to consider the need of our first international stakeholder. I mean, maybe a direct international market where we export, and from where we import. We need to consider their local context as well, because in the future, the performance of your supplier and the performance of your customer will impact your class or your rank of ESG. For this, considering first of all local context and tailoring local context, really ESG metrics, but also adding some relevant international aspects will facilitate and can facilitate international trade and international commerce and international collaboration and investment. This is really one important point that we need to consider in our future research to support the development of a dynamic ESG market with an holistic vision. I will present what I mean by holistic vision. That's why ESG matters. First of all, the main, if you want, the main reason is that we are fighting against climate change threats and resource scarcity. In addition of what I have presented through contract cycles, which we are moving to an innovative, more innovative, if you want, era shaped by digital and green twins. Thus, we are having more and more a new culture related to consumer behavior. Consumer behavior is now more impacted by these aspects related to future generations' rights, respecting the environment, and also trying to find, if you want, natural or products that are based to safe practices, and not, I mean, in terms of only resources, but also the right of the different employees that are working on this in this organization or company. For this, there is an increase of pressure on the policymakers, and not only from the consumer behavior, but also from the international community, because we are all facing the increase or the increase of CO2 emission, and also that we are also facing globally climate change threats, and we are all contributing to these threats. So there is an increasingly severe regulatory framework under consumer pressure. It's not in all the different developing countries and underdeveloped countries, but this kind of regulatory will be soon mandatory to get access to some international supports or some international funding, grants, and international collaboration. For this, there is a growing necessity of new business models and new definition of performance. Here, we need to understand that ESG needs to have a comprehensive and holistic approach. From sustainable culture, based on education, advocacy, and the role of scientific research, and role of NGO and university, and this will be at the meso level. Thus, will impact creating a positive ecosystem through shaping a new model of supply chain based on respecting the sustainability or ensuring the sustainability, and also framing a new policy and programs, thus a regulatory approach. And here we will have the role of policymakers at the macro level, and we will push toward developing green business models. Thus, the performance of the organization and company will not cover only the financial aspects, but also the ESG elements. And thus came the role of the private sector. And thus, as you can see, we have all the different levels in this holistic approach of ESG, where we need a collaboration from the macro, macro, and meso level. And I do believe that the role of NGOs and university will be crucial to support not only the private sector to provide ESG metrics and to conduct, for example, survey or key informant interview or focus group discussions, but also to frame or to support the public sector in developing inclusive policies. So, as I have said, there is a growing interest, and according to the Tunisian Stock Exchange ESG Guide, out of plus than 2,000 studies since 1970, and are working on the concept of sustainability, and about 63% have established a positive link between the ESG performance and companies and their financial performance. And thus, there is just 10% that they found that there is a negative link. We will see together what are really the positive impacts of ESG approach. As really The main challenges related to ESG approach is to produce key performance indicators that will not only cover the organization performance, but also the meso and macro level. And we still have absence of standard metrics. There is an important, if you want, challenge and need to support creating ESG metrics. So we need to conclude imperative related to ESG to establish a strategy and business identity for each sector, and then to create a governance model at the macro level, and then to create key performance indicator and monitoring and evaluation and learning indicators. And also these will came from mapping, first of all, stakeholders' expectations. So by mapping stakeholders' expectations, we will be able to create all of these different elements. Who are the stakeholders? They are the consumer, and they are mainly the international community and also the financial sector. There is a very informative and interesting ESG score calculation guide provided by Refinitiv that is really providing this holistic vision. You can see that the different inputs to provide or to calculate the score that come from not only annual reports and maybe company websites, but also, as you can see, NGO websites, corporate and social responsibility websites, but also the identity of the organization or the company on the internet, and what the internet users they are saying or commenting about about this organization or company. I can share with you that in our school, National School of Sciences and Advanced Technologies, we worked on so in this school our students are student engineer in advanced technologies, and we work on some projects to use artificial intelligence to extract relevant information related to companies using smart dashboards and to extract or to conclude the ESG score of these companies based not only on the annual report, but on the informations that we can have on the internet. Not only quantitative data, but also qualitative data. And the colleagues that can share with you, they can share with you the link, the presentation, and you can find the guide. So now, I would like to add that Refinitiv score here provides deeper insights on how the scores are computed. So an overall ESG score is derived based on individual scores, as you can see here in the figure. And the methodology use key calculation principles. For example, unique ESG magnitude, maternality, weighting have been included as the importance of ESG factors differ across industries. They include transparency simulation. They also, so industry and countries benchmark at the data point scoring level. Also, they are including to facilitate comparability or comparable analysis within peer groups. And this score produce a score between 0 to 100. So it is a very interesting piece of knowledge. And as you can see that there is a growing adoption of ESG. So ESG adoption is on the rise. You can see that globally more than 50% of interviewed, if you want here, companies from all the globe are integrating ESG on their approach and strategy, and about 25% they have conviction on ESG investment as central to their investment approach. There is no data related to Africa. Unfortunately, this is a new study really published by Harvard study, and you have the link for this study. And this is really a proof that we need to allocate additional efforts to really develop ESG metrics in our continent. If we can say that there is ESG adoption, ESG adoption is on the rise. So what will be the aim? The aim is to go toward best in class. And here there is a rank or a classification provided to describe the performance of companies. Some companies can still ESG unaware. This is stage where investors place no positive value on ESG related issue. They may consider certain risk management or regulatory factors somewhat relevant to ESG, such as the potential for environment litigation, but this is based on avoiding loss rather than really having proactive or positive shareholder benefits of incorporating ESG into investment decisions. So, for example, if we can define exclusion or norms-based, this is a more comprehensive type of negative screening that excludes investment in companies that do not meet widely accepted norms, such as the United Nations or Global Impact Principles or Kyoto Protocol or the UN Declaration of Human Rights. And if we speak about what are the best in class, investors here are investors actively select companies to invest in based on a set of ESG criteria or choosing from a subset of the best really player in a sector. In practice, this can involve ranking the potential investment population by the criteria, then selecting the best performers from each characteristics. And when we speak about impact or thematic, this refers to investment made with the intention to generate measurable and beneficial social and environmental impacts alongside a financial return. This differs from traditional philanthropy as it intends to earn a financial return. So what will be really the positive impact? We need to know what are the positive impact and use of ESG. So the increasing engagement of ESG is creating really value for both companies and investors alike. The strengthening initiative is profiting businesses through cost reduction and revenue generation while leaving a positive footprint on the society at large. Likewise, investors benefit from greater financial return by better allocating capital through sustainable investing. So how can companies really use ESG metrics? So the commercial ESG scores and ratings. So there is really several vendors, and I will share some examples, offer ESG scoring and rating services that can rank companies' performance, and these kind of ranks that they are used by banks and will impact your access to funding. ESG certifications, so ESG metrics can be used to seek certifications that demonstrate a company's commitment to specific practices. Some of these are familiar, such as the Fair Trade certification, and it's really well-developed and well-known certifications in our continent for ethical labor practices, for example, for really raw for cereals, for example, and certifications of compliance with, for example, ISO 14001 standard for environmental management. Also, we can say that also there is the internal or third-party audits. So companies can also conduct internal audit and assessment, and this can impact the employees' performance, but also the relationship with the supplier and customer as well. So engagement with external stakeholders. So another approach is to engage with outside stakeholders, such as customers, investors, suppliers, and community members, and also policymakers. And all of these elements can be assessed through using survey. This survey, I will share with you some indicators that we can ask yes or no, or we can see really the quantitative performance to calculate really the ESG score and compliance. I would like here to share with you a very comprehensive reporting published by the Tunisian Stock Exchange. And it was really a research, an output of the research project with international German organization in 2021, published in December 2021. So, for example, when we speak about environment, this is really for in the industry sector. This is the first guide. It's not applicable for all the different sectors, but it gives really a good understanding of what an ESG reporting guide looks like. For example, there is energy consumptions measured by technical aspects. So energy intensity, energy mix, if the company used or no renewable energy, the use of water, the management of waste, the respect of biodiversity or no. For the social aspect, gender pay ratio, employment, if we are employing people for full-time or part-time, online or no, if we are considering the diversity, equality, and inclusion opportunity between women and men, between people with disability, between now the other really vulnerable groups, if we have really a good strategy for health and safety, if we respect human rights, if we allocate sufficient funding for training, and if we are serving the local community. For the governance aspect, if within the board we have a diverse board or no, if the board is independent or no, so the remuneration of the board members and also the incentives, social and environmental assessment of supplier in the governance aspect, if we are discussing this issue or no, if we are assessing the quality of our supply chain at the top level of their hierarchy, if there is ethical and anti-corruption policy or no, if there is data privacy or no, all of these elements can be included in one survey, and so the participant can answer by yes or no, as you can see. And if we have an ESG reporting or no. Thus, I share with you some standards related to reporting, and the most used one is the global, the GRI standard, and it's most widely used reporting standard for companies. The Sustainable Accounting Standard Board, based on 77 industry-specific standards, and here we are adding not only the ESG element, but also the innovation aspect, which is very important. The MSCI index, so this is a worldwide index, and here I would like to discuss with you. As you can see, the MSCI cover really ESG Universal Index, but also, for example, you can see that they go in depth. There is the Leadership Index. There is also the index related to women's leadership impact, and it aims to collect companies that generate social and environmental benefits. Working or concluding your ESG performance is very critical, and there is not a standard body of knowledge that you can refer to. There is a lot of now, really after 2019, a lot of new private entity, either NGO or really private entity that are working on providing guidance and support. For example, here, City Resilience Index, it explore and evaluate the city resilience to plan for a strong future. And this Resilience Index can also impact the ESG strategy of the investors working or investing in this city. Another group, Equity Knowledge Partner, providing solutions and customized ESG research solutions. Another really support from BCG group, designing resilience into global supply chain by defining and measuring resilience. A well-known really private consulting group, providing also assistance to understand not only the sustainability or the ESG performance of the company, but also the sustainability report of the country that is based also on the ESG performance of the different companies working on the different sectors in this country. The principles for responsible investment, providing ESG integration in listed equity with a technical guide, very technical guide. And now I will share with you some musings related to the case of Nigeria. Nigeria has a developing and strong economy, so a strong economy based on different sectors, so oil and gas, the agriculture sector, the ICT with a growing interest on the ICT, the manufacturing, the real estate, the trade, and others. So these different sectors are contributing to GDP. But when we see to the fast-growing sectors in the first quarter of 2022, we can say that rail transport is gaining an important interest with aviation and metal ores. And by the way, the most contributor sector is the agriculture. But when we see the fossil emission by sector of Nigeria, we can see that the transport sector contributes the most by 31.9%. So here there is an important discussion that can be made, that from one hand, the country economy is mostly based on the agriculture, which needs really an important focus on sustainability and maybe on allocating more interests toward working with agri-tech and so on. There is also a good development related to technology. But by the way, there is a concentration on transportation, which contributes the most on ESG, on fossil emission by sector. And here, there is an important study conducted by Emmanuel and Effium in 2021, and they try to expect the footprint of Nigeria in the future after 2020. And here you can have the full study. So they try to assess the impact of the actual economic development of Nigeria and on the Nigeria footprint. And there is really a surprising findings and very relevant findings for today's topic. The findings reveals that the positive impact of financial development and economic development on environmental sustainability out at the lower thresholds. So stronger asymmetric effects between financial development and fossil and CO2 emissions exist at the long run as compared with the short run. So at the long run, there is really a strong impact. Therefore, to ensure environmental sustainability and sustainable development in Nigeria, policymakers should pay adequate attention to the long-run dynamics and ensure that the economic development level does not degenerate to the lower threshold, where the positive impact of this really positive impact, we mean here in terms of economic growth, will impact the sustainability and Nigeria footprint. Again, I would like to repeat that 40% of the sector is based on, of the economy is based on agriculture. But by the way, the trend related to the sectors that are really growing show that at the long run, they will be a positive, a negative impact. For this, if we would like to discuss how can the Nigeria economy be based on green business models, there is really a strong need to accelerate the efforts toward mainstreaming the sustainability and mainstreaming the inclusion factor in the different sectors and the different really public policies. How? I share with you some of modest, if you want, recommendations. We can recommend a multifaceted approach by developing and reinforcing a comprehensive ESG regulation. So to establish really an active ESG practices in Nigeria and promote sustainability, a multifaceted approach is recommended. Firstly, the Nigerian policymakers should prioritize the development and enforcement of comprehensive ESG regulation that align with global standards. We have shared some of these examples, and cater to local needs. We have shared that we need to consider the local context and maybe the local priorities and the local problems. These regulations should encompass environmental protections measures, social responsibility initiatives, and robust governance frameworks. Collaborating with industry experts, civil society organizations, and international partners can aid in formulating ESG policies. Secondly, promoting ESG awareness and education is vital. Launching, for example, public awareness campaigns, workshops, and training programs like the workshop that we are conducting today can engage businesses, investors, and communities in understanding the significance of sustainable practices. This will encourage the integration of ESG principles into business strategies, investment decisions, and daily operation. Third, incentivizing ESG adoption is crucial. For example, offering tax benefits, grants, and favorable financing terms to companies demonstrating strong ESG performance can encourage wider adoption of sustainable practices. Moreover, establishing ESG reporting requirement for listed companies can enhance transparency and accountability. And the fourth point, fostering collaboration and knowledge sharing among industries, academia, and governance body based on an holistic vision that we have discussed together, establishing platforms for dialogue and information exchange, and accelerate the adoption of best ESG practices and innovative solutions. Lastly, creating platforms for stakeholder engagement is essential. Regular dialogues between business communities, investors, and regulatory authorities can ensure that ESG practices address local concerns and contribute to overall social and economic development. For example, the Financial Reporting Council can be the principal entity by creating a task force. I do believe that a task force should be multidisciplinary, a committee based on a board from the different ministries, covering all the ESG aspects, plus presenters from the NGO and academia. This kind of collaborative work can create and can improve the current ESG understanding and can avoid really the long-term impact of the long-term impact on Nigeria footprint. And thank you so much for your attention. And yeah, so I'm here to really answer your questions.
Wow, thank you very much, Dr. Amira Kadu. It's been an amazing time learning from you today, and I have actually gained a lot. I have a better understanding of what ESG actually means, our need to actually take up our sustainability for us, for individuals, for companies in Nigeria, for corporate organization, and every one of us. And I'm sure everyone on this call also has gained a lot through your teachings today. So thank you very much. And I would like every one of us to show our virtual love to our guest speaker, Dr. Amira Kadu. Please show your love to her. Thank you once again, Ma. We'll proceed shortly to our questions. For questions, if you have questions, please prepare your questions. Why Dr. Amira Kadu will prepare to answer our questions. So please, thank you for your love. Thank you for showing her love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So if you have questions, please raise your virtual hand so that we can quickly run through our questions. Why Dr. Amira will prefer answers to our questions. Thank you. I'll recognize virtual hands that are raised. If you have questions for our guest speaker, please raise a virtual hand.
So maybe my colleague Olenika, what I really would like to share with you today is that having multidisciplinary vision and holistic vision in this kind of topics is very relevant when we need to integrate new aspects of assessment. ESG really integrate a broad, if you want, indicators and KPI, and most of them are really recent. And for example, if we take the industrial sector, most of the companies, they are not really assessing most of these indicators. I mean, for example, for the Tunisian guide that I shared with you. So there is a growing need to create task force, national task force, to assess, to create, to produce, and to mainstream, if you want, the use of these indicators. So again, I really would like that this recommendations of having multidisciplinary task force is very relevant in such really critical and new topics. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Hamira Kadu. We appreciate those recommendations. And I'm sure for us at Sopolo, we've actually implemented some. And that's why we organize this type of program for others to actually learn from this type of workshop. So thank you once again. Please, your question, raise the virtual hand if you have question for our guest speaker. Thank you. Okay, I can see a virtual hand up. Samson Simon, please over to you. Unmute yourself.
Thank you for yielding the floor to me. Dr. Amira, thank you so much for the presentation. We have learned a lot, and I have some questions for you. The first question is about ESG and state failure. You might have come across what happened in Sri Lanka, where the government was toppled, and some people were attributing the state failure to ESG. I don't agree, but I've studied some articles, and I think they have some point in the sense that the government tended to prioritize ESG, at least according to some sources, ahead of maybe the feeding of its citizens. Let me cite an example. Chemical fertilizer is not actually good for the environment, but is good in terms of food production. I know you may say, all right, it does long-term, the long-term effect is incalculable, but I don't know what's your take about that, your personal opinion, how if an economy that is not really strong is fragile, and that economy focuses on ESG, I think it should be a good thing. But considering the Sri Lanka experience, and they had a very good ESG score. That was one. Then the second part now, the nexus between ESG and one, gender parity, two, corporate social responsibility, three, livability. Most of us here live in Lagos, Nigeria. If you look at the Economic Intelligence Unit ranking of livability of cities, sadly, where we live is one of the lowest, if not the lowest, maybe just ahead of Damascus, which is a war-torn city. So do you think ESG can actually help a city like Lagos to be more livable? And then the corporate social responsibility, do you think corporate social responsibility can be subsumed under ESG, or do you think they just have some parts that they have similar areas, but they are not entirely the same? Well, at least ESG is not the umbrella, and CSR, corporate social responsibility, is under. And then the gender parity part. Thank you so much.
So much, my colleague Simon, for all of these questions. So first of all, I think that we will not be able to cover all the different aspects related to ESG, because ESG, so first of all, until now, we don't have standard metric. This is from one hand. From the second hand, we don't have until now the mandatory regulation. And since we don't have really mandatory regulations, so the policymakers, they know that we still have a period for transition, right? But what we can see that, and this is very, very good point and excellent questions, why we have the Sustainable Accounting Standard Board as reporting. And here the main specificity of this ASB reporting standard is that we have included the innovation aspect. So, for example, for the fertilizer, we will need additional years to find really another solution. For this, this SASB reporting include the effort of the companies in funding through research and development and technology transfer, solutions and sustainable new solutions. So if your company is still using this kind of negative, if you want, practices, and we don't have another solution, but by the way, there is another effort that it can balance, or it can make the balance, and it can show that you have the goodwill to find or to contribute in funding, for example, research in university to find a solution for this negative aspect. So really there is through this kind of reporting, we are aware that we will not have all the different solutions right now, but companies should provide or should show their goodwill to find solutions. It may be by hiring new graduate. It may be by supporting working papers. It may be by supporting a laboratory in a university working on funding another solution. So this kind of thought. For this, when we speak again about using or about developing ESG metrics, we need to see the ESG metrics or approach based on a collaborative work between NGO, organization, university, private and public sector. Because right now we don't have all the different solutions. The second questions, I think, about in-field work, right, my colleague?
Yes, the second question is around ESG and let's say CSR, corporate social responsibility. Can corporate social responsibility be subsumed? Can it be considered a subunit of ESG, or how different they are?
Yeah. The corporate social responsibility is really the strategy, the vision of the company that will cover the environment element, the social element, and the governance element. But when we would like to assess the performance and the quality of this strategy, we will create, or we will fill the ESG metrics. They have a reporting of ESG, yes or no? What are the mix of their energy consumptions? What is the rate of the women working on the company? What is the percentage of persons with disability working on in the company? If we have equality in terms of wage or no? So ESG is the assessment or the evaluation of the quality of the corporate social responsibility of the companies and organizations. And I think you have also provided another questions related to one city in Nigeria, right? Based on field work, yes, if I'm not wrong. If you can please remind me.
Yeah, livability of cities. Economic Intelligence Unit, the part of the Economist magazine, publishes a list of livability of cities around the world. So if ESG can help with livability, then
yes.
the second part
yes, for sure. So ESG will have hello?
Please, can you mute if you're not?
Yeah. So ESG definitely will has a positive impact at the long term, at medium and long term. We start to have some positive impact at medium term because, you know, investing in green aspects. So the outcomes of investing in green really we know that comes at long term. But now, since we have a growing interest on ESG aspects and a growing, if you want, discussions all over the world about climate threats and equality and also achieving agenda of 2030, so we start to have economic payoff and social payoff at the medium term and the long term. I give you an example. So through, again, the ESG will be an assessment of the performance of the company related to corporate social responsibility. And you have seen that I shared with you that in the ESG metrics provided, for example, by the Tunisian Stock Exchange, we have community service. We have serving or improving the conditions of the work of persons with disability and women. We have improving the capabilities and skills of the employees through training. So all of these aspects will impact positively the human beings and the citizens and the ecosystem, I mean the close environment of the company, to create a positive conditions and a positive well-being for the community. Yeah.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So I see Mrs. James.
Okay, thank you very much for doing justice to that question. We have one more hands up. Blessing James.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And you've been able to compare between ESG and corporate social responsibility. So I think you've also indicated that there are no data in Africa, particularly in the one of the colleagues have indicated that an example from Sri Lanka indicates clearly where these models have not been implemented. And you've shown the shortcoming in terms of the comprehensiveness of the ESG. So do you think, because I think ESG is inclusiveness for wealthy countries, do you think this model can be implemented? Because I still think the corporate social responsibility falls within most of the implementations and the sustainable development goals of most organizations and institutions. Like you said, how countries come in to give access and give palliatives and all that. So for ESG, I think it's for wealthy countries. And I do not think it's a holistic approach to, or probably, I do not think this technology is at the moment ready. So this is my question or contribution.
Can you please explain again which technology are you speaking about?
You mean the models you've talked about, the ESG, inclusive, ensure sustainability and inclusive prosperity for nations, right? So I think corporate social responsibility, moving from corporate social responsibility to ESG is not at the moment the key, because ESG is mainly for wealthy countries, not from my understanding, because most of the countries in Africa are not cannot be easily placed on this model. And if you go to Asia as well, you've seen that this model cannot be a comprehensive model. So I don't think the human society is ready for ESG at this point.
So maybe let me clarify. ESG is an assessment and evaluation that is provided for private sectors, for the micro level, not for the macro level. So when we speak about the country sustainability, we need to see the performance of the private sector, maybe the existing regulatory framework, all of these aspects to assess the performance, or to assess the performance maybe of the country at the macro level. So ESG is linked to the performance of the company, not the country. It's an aspect related to the private sector. And when we will try to assess the aggregated, if you want, performance of all the sectors, we will come at the macro level where we will see the country performance. This is from one point. From the second point, we don't speak about modeling in ESG. They are not models. They are metrics. They are metrics generated from different key indicators. I will share with you my screen again. I see that you are laughing, my colleague. If I am providing some wrong informations, please. Maybe I am wrong.
No.
This is not a model.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah. Just
I'm not saying that. I'm only saying that.
Allow me to continue. Allow me to continue. So here there is indicators. You see, okay, the total of energy consumption within the company in Joule. So they are different indicators. These indicators, they will be integrated in what we call a score. Okay, this score will be provided from the annual reports, the metric that we have shared, and also the qualitative informations related to the company with different weights. These weights will be linked to the specific context of the sector, not the country of the sector. We need to have an understanding. So for sure, the agriculture sector will not have the same challenges as, for example, the mine or industry and so on. For this, we need to, first of all, provide an understanding for what should be these indicators. Okay. It would be really, it's not really a modeling, a very strong modeling, but really a simple calculation of score based on a simple or a specific vision. Here we have, here, as you can see, we have customized ESG research solutions and ESG scores. These customized ESG research scores will be linked to the local context. This is really the main problem. We hope that we have one day standard modeling. Until now, we don't have standard modeling. And again, this standard modeling is related to private sector, not private sector, not public sector. When we speak about the effort of the public sector, it will be if they have a mandatory reporting related to ESG, if they have public policy regarding waste management, if they have public policy regarding gender equality planning, if they have a public policy regarding employing and persons with disability and minor groups, if we respect and we need, so the private sector needs to respect the human rights. So all of these aspects, again, if I am presenting, so really, if you have this kind of modeling, I would like to see, yeah, for sure, I would like to see the modeling that you are speaking about.
Okay, thank you so much. What I mean is, if you say private entities, if you look at some government organizations also carry out CRS functions. For example, the training of personnel or localities or people from a particular area. So I think in the next, my advice is to streamline in the next kind of presentation to say, okay, the main focus is between CRS and ESG in terms of microeconomy. Because if you say generally this is the issue, I understand, but it's not a holistic comprehensive.
Yes. Corporate social responsibility is really a strategy more than metrics. It can be applied by a government entity and also by private entity. But again, there is an important body of research that they when we discuss corporate social responsibility for public or for public entities, they are here to serve community, and this is really their main basic role. We are not really creating a new reality. But the main concern of corporate social responsibility should be from the private sector, because the private sector, its main concern is really creating private earning. For this, there is an important really research that when we discuss corporate social responsibility for public sector, they say that no, corporate social responsibility, public sector, they are here to serve the community. This is really their basic works. But let's discuss corporate social responsibility when we are not discussing government, but we are discussing, for example, public organizations, public enterprise. For example, some oil and gas companies, some maybe agriculture public organizations. For this, they are basically working to serve the community. Okay, but our main concern is boosting private investors to avoid negative impact on the environment. This is another really subject to discuss, and thank you so much for raising this point. This is really another philosophical aspect that we need to discuss again. If public organizations or public enterprise, we need to raise the point of corporate social responsibility for public organizations at the same level of private organizations. And again, here, we are speaking not about corporate social responsibility, but about ESG, the assessment, the evaluation, creating indicators. This is our concern today, really ESG. I don't know if I have answered your questions or if you have another comments.
But from the topic, you indicated that moving from CRS to ESG. So if you are moving from CRS to ESG, are you now saying that CRS is mainly private and an ESG is a private model, a private entity? So that simply means
no. Here we are speaking about the trends, about the evolution here. Yeah,
yes,
about evolution. Yes, here.
Yes.
Shift from corporate social responsibility.
Shifting from corporate to ESG.
Yes. This is not to say that we are not speaking about corporate social responsibility. No. But before to assess the corporate social responsibility, we need to read a report, and this was really sufficient. Now, in addition of reading the sustainable development report of the company or its corporate social responsibility report, we need also to have its ESG score. This is a new need. This is a new need. You see, this is a new need. In the past, we had just the annual financial report. They have added the sustainable development report, or some companies title it as corporate social responsibility report. Okay, now we need to add to this sustainability report in general the rank or the score of this company in this report. So we are shifting from just
the ESG is mainly for wealthy country, because if you look at it clearly, if you say inclusive prosperity. For example, in most African countries, they are under poverty level. So in this case, where is inclusive prosperity? Inclusive prosperity simply means moving from, it's an indicator of an holistic approach. And I think this ESG is mainly for wealthy countries, not for poor countries.
No, at all. Look here, for example, Look here, for example, for the S element. Employment, breakdown of the workforce by type of contract. If they are providing permanent, fixed term, or full-time or part-time, you know, in all of the poor, we will not say poor, we say developed, underdeveloped, or developing countries. They don't provide stability for the workforce. If they are providing this kind of stability or no, number of integration contracts concluded during the year. So if they are hiring or no new, if they are contributing to decreasing the unemployment rate or no. So, and again, this is not a standard metrics. Each country should create its really tailored metrics. And when you say about diversity and inclusion, there is an important indicators that can describe the progress toward inclusion. So here it was really a benchmark of the Tunisian stock market. And again, there is a lot of uncovered aspects here. For example, in Tunisia, we have an important problem of road safety. When we will speak here about local communities, we should, for example, provide for example, another indicator, if the transport of the employees is provided or no by the company. So yes or no. If they are not quantitative, you can just quantify them by saying yes or no. So again, this is an important subject for discussion. This is an important subject for research. This is an important subject to create tailored really indicators that can really efficiently describe the context of each sector within each country. Each sector within your country can have its own ESG metrics. You can see that this ESG metrics was really just a benchmark, an example that the Tunisian stock market has provided to all the different stakeholders, listed stakeholders, but it's not applied for all the different sectors. It was the first one, and it should be amended to fit better the specificity of each sector. And it should be really the case of all the different countries all over the world. And this is what I shared with you in terms of website. This is what they are doing based on survey, on key informant interview from experts. They discuss with them what are really the priority, what are really the concern for each element, E, S, and G, and after that, how can we really calculate, or how can we describe using maybe quantitative or qualitative indicators. And after that, we will create our metrics. After that, we will validate this new metrics. After that, we need to create awareness to adopt this metrics. After that, we need to go to the public sector to reinforce and boost the eligibility of this kind of metrics. And after that, we should start collecting data using the collaboration of the private sector to create really a base for monitoring and evaluation and learning. After maybe 3 years, we will find that X and Z indicator are not efficient and effective and not really coherent and relevant regarding the local context. We should amend them and so on. We will still need, I think still need about maybe 7 years. 7 years if we start working on this kind of data to find standard and accepted and approved indicators. To start really creating the positive, real impact on our countries. I don't mean on the sector. So aggregated.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Amira Kadu. We really appreciate the explanation given on this. Thank you once again. Based on what she has explained so far, especially on ESG metrics. For the E, we have environmental sustainability, and under this, we have renewable energy, waste management, how companies, individuals manage their waste, the social responsibility, the CSR, education and healthcare, the gender equality, how each companies, organizations, states, governments promotes gender equality and women empowerment through policies that ensure equal access opportunities. And then she mentioned the governance and transparency. Under this, she mentioned the anti-corruption measures, the rule of law, the investors' protection. That is for us to enhance corporate governance practices to attract foreign investments by ensuring fair treatment of investors and minority shareholders. We don't have any more hands up, and I would like to just say, personally and for my organization, we discovered we've taken this away from what you have taught us, that incorporating ESG principle into policies, individual policy, the corporate individuals, organizations, even Nigeria states can attract responsible investments, then foster sustainable economic growth. It will enhance our social inclusivity and contribute to global efforts for a more equitable and environmental friendly future. So, and all you have actually taught us today, we are going to put them into implementation. Thank you once again. And I would like to run us through what we do at Okpolo. Okpolo Global, our name is Okpolo Global Innovation Limited, and we are innovation enabler, we are incubator, accelerator with a focus on nurturing talents to become a global innovators, solution developers, and entrepreneurs. Then part of what we offer, our services include the co-working space, we build capacity, we offer talent as a service, innovation funding, mentorship and coaching. We are into research commercialization. That is, we commercialize research outputs. If you have a research output that you want to scale, we are into that. We are also into idea incubation and acceleration. So these are what we offer from Okpolo Global Innovation Limited. And perhaps you have, you need a workshop, you want a collaboration like what our guest speaker has mentioned, that all these things actually need a collaborative effort. If you need collaboration, please feel free to contact us on through our website and via a mail. I'm going to drop our mail on this chat box so that individual can actually follow up. So once again, thank you everyone. And I would like to call on Dr. Simon to give a vote of thanks to everyone. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here, particularly Amira. We're extremely grateful. You have taken out time out of your tight schedule to be here for us, and we have gotten a lot. It has been incisive, it has been insightful, it has been deep, and we have learned a lot. And for an economy like Nigeria, we believe that ESG will go a long way. Like we said, ESG is not only for rich countries, it's about sustainability, it's about inclusivity. And I think it's really important for any economy to incorporate that into its governance structure, its economy. We are extremely grateful once more. We look forward to doing a lot of things together. We hope to deepen this relationship. Thank you so much, Ma. And God bless. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You are welcome. Thank you. It was a great pleasure to discuss with you, and thank you so much for the inputs of all the participants, and hopefully that Mrs. James is satisfied.
I'm Dr. James. I'm not Mr. James. Thank you.
Mr. James, yeah, Dr. James. Thank you so much. Doctor, Professor, thank you so much, my professor. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone, and I will encourage us to still stay tuned to subsequent programs, webinar, workshops that we're going to be pushing out. Thank you. We expect you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Can we snap before we close? Can we?
Okay.
Femi Ajayi, can we snap? Can everybody put on his video? Can Femi Ajayi hear me, please? Can we take a group photograph? Femi Ajayi, can you hear me? Is Femi Ajayi still on this call?
Yes, it's taking it now.
Oh, all right. All right. Let's know when it's done, please. It's taking too long. I hope all is well.
Okay. That's the... Okay. Thank you once again. We've taken the group out. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my God. Thank you, Jesus.
Ibama yewe bakpa binim bakama preso yewe misa election ko hakpa na mama go bike na gihene tombe so go 20,000 mana dividing by 4 5,000 ya de kuru go man de ko man dia ma yi sama pe wo basum 15 weni anda on dia bunu mo ina kishi denga we na moro gwan ya be shari yana ya mini yore ma ko ne mo tonko bu iru ya wani tonko bu iru ya na so kana ne mdobi no de zama to tu wa mi la ila hewo une ya me na a he ya 3 o mo 5 sagawana we na kare mo eti ya na kayara Allah ku ambataw une we sa wa mo gobi ya wa mo ipa na mak pelu iwo si wa anka tiri mo amu ye mbiru an sanu so aka hu ya ne benti na be we mo ipa ne ba mo dia hu bo no ko ne he gwe wa mo na mai na to de le san we wa ibinna me wo be wo timura la ilaha illallah ya bi nunca wonsi wa anga do mo kudo meji ba ba je and why I'm very strong you go more strong